First, print and cut out a slingshot template. I'm using the Moorhammer by Joerg Sprave. I then traced it onto some 18mm walnut wood to make the core of the slingshot. Then cut the core out. I used the scroll saw, but you could also use a jigsaw or just a handsaw. Then I traced the template twice onto some 4mm oak wood and then cut it out again using a scroll saw. Then I traced just the handle part onto some 12mm thick purple heart wood and cut it out. Here I'm tracing the template onto some mystery exotic wood. I would just trace the whole template on, but the board isn't wide enough, so I had to draw two halves and then glue them together later. Here are all the pieces ready to be glued together. Glue them together using wood glue or epoxy. Here's what it looks like after all the glue's dried. You could easily level out the sides using a rasp and files, or just use a belt sander like I did. And here's the slingshot with the sides all leveled out and smooth. Then draw the shape of your palm swell and use a saw, rasps, and files to shape it out. It should look roughly like this. Then taper off the fork tips using a rasp. Here's the slingshot so far with that done. Here I'm cutting some pieces of plywood to put on the back of the fork to fill in some spaces. Just glue the pieces on using wood glue. Now, to fill in some more spaces, I'm mixing some bamboo shavings with epoxy, and then I added some highlighter ink to make it green. I mixed it up and then applied it to the back of the fork. Then clean everything up a bit using rasps and files or a belt sander. And here's the finalized shape of the slingshot after all shaping has been finished. If you want to do what I did and add pins to the slingshot, first start by marking dots where you want to put the pins, then drill small pilot holes, and finally drill large holes the same diameter as your pin. By the way, I used 6mm aluminum pins. Glue in the pins with 2-part epoxy and then grind them down on the belt sander or with hand files. Here's what it looks like after that's done. After you've finalized the shape and added the pins, sand the slingshot to 100 grit and add grooves for the bands to attach. Then apply your first layer of oil. I'm using boiled linseed oil, but any natural oil works fine. After you've applied your first coat of oil, then continue sanding, starting from low grits up to 2000 grit. Make sure to do a thorough job when sanding, because it'll make the finish a lot nicer when you finish the slingshot. After the long process of sanding it to 2000 grit, this is what it should look like. Then proceed to add your final coat of oil. After this, you don't have to, but I prefer to coat the slingshot in at least 10 layers of glossy polyurethane varnish. And here it is with those 10 layers applied. Then, to get a super smooth finish on the polyurethane, first start by going over the slingshot in fine steel wool. Here's the slingshot after the steel wool. It may look a little dull, but that'll soon be fixed with the 2000 grit sandpaper and some paste wax. Notice a little bit of the shine coming back after the 2000 grit. To fully bring the shine back, I'm using paste finishing wax. So put a little bit on a paper towel and rub it on the slingshot, and after that you can buff it off using a buffing wheel or just a hand rag until it's super smooth and super shiny. This is the band set I will be using. Each band is about 23 centimeters long, and it tapers from 4 centimeters wide to 2 centimeters wide. The pouch I'm using is 8 centimeters long and about 2 centimeters wide. And finally, after all this work, this is the finished slingshot. I hope you like it. Now let's do a test of this new Moorhammer Slingshot using 9mm steel balls at about 20 feet away.